and all that is in demand for justice for this man, an African-American, George Floyd, who died whilst in the custody of a white police officer. In a viral video, the white officer is seen with his knee on George Floyd's neck, with the black man continuously saying he couldn't breathe. All those were ignored by the officer, whose action was being watched by his two other colleagues, who also prevented bystanders from intervening.
Very close to the Diaspora African Forum, the frontage. I'm here. The organizers call it a funeral for George Floyd. You know, George Floyd was murdered by a white police officer in Minneapolis sometime last week. Well, what is happening here? People, African Americans, are gathered here. People from all races are gathered here to solidarize with American people who have been protesting on the streets, demanding justice and calling for equality. We've been hearing speaker after speaker here, but we want to interact with some of the people who are gathered here to find out from them what they make of the situation here. Well, you can see the cap I'm wearing. I can't breathe. It represents it is the last words of George Floyd. In fact, we know that Eric Garner, who was also held in chokehold by police officers, also muttered these words, "I can't breathe," before he died.
I think it's about time. I'm complete solidarity with the African American people. We're a diaspora. All black people are affected by this, and it's about time that we dismantle the system, we dismantle the structure of white supremacy, and dismantle everything, break everything, and rebuild and stop killing black people all around the world. And this is not only in the U.S., this is also happening in Ghana. So we need to dismantle everything, restructure the police system, have them really protect and serve us, demilitarize them, stop giving them all of these things to kill us. So I'm in complete solidarity with the system. Yeah.
Ernesto, your boy. Ernesto, what is it Commander-in-Chief?
Commander-in-Chief of
the Economic Fighters League. Yesterday you had a press conference and you're calling on African leaders to rise up to the occasion and also speak against racism. You think by their silence they are complicit in all of this?
They are absolutely complicit, and they tell us by their actions exactly where they stand on this global issue of racism. And that is why we are up in arms in condemning their silence and in condemning their sycophancy. If the Queen was sick, you would hear Ekufuado, wishing the Queen a speedy recovery. And we can't understand why our president cannot be heard in same voice, solidarizing with people who have been murdered and gruesomely killed in the streets of America.
What should we be demanding? Justice, prosecutions? What should we be demanding?
I think that they go hand in hand, and prosecution will definitely serve the justice that we are looking for, even though it cannot restore or bring back to life those who have unfortunately lost it.
I'm from down south. I'm from a place called Wilson, North Carolina, and the way I was brought up by my parents was to be submissive and subservient to all white people. And somehow I went to the military and I went to school and I got an education and I got out of the Jim Crow era, but there are a lot of the Jim Crow things, but there are a lot of my brothers and sisters who are still there, who are still in the Jim Crow.
Let's head to the United States of America. Pakwesi Asare is in Alabama. He's joining me for more. Hello, Pakwesi. Pakwesi, do you hear me? Okay, so Pakwesi there, we'll try and reach out to him so that he can hear us. But I also have here in Ghana, Jessica Uboma. She's president of the Gais Daycare Centers Association and convener of a movement dubbed Moms Against Police Brutality, I Can't Breathe. Jessica, thanks for your time. Tell us a bit more about your campaign.
Okay, I want to say good afternoon to our cherished viewers and to our friends and family all over the world. Thank you for this opportunity. myself and a few friends have sat back and wondered why nobody in Africa is adding their voice to this cause. So, as George Floyd kept crying for help, he's crying for his mom, who died 2 years ago. And that broke my heart, for a grown man of 40-something to cry for mom. So we have dubbed our movement to be Moms Against Police Brutality, which is called MOPUB. So we want to stage a peaceful protest. Maybe 50 people, 50 women. We have some male supporters as well. And we want to highlight the issues of police brutality. I have lived in the States before. I have lived in the UK. I went to high school in the States. I have family in the States. I have family in the UK. I have brothers and sisters in Europe. I have nieces, nephews. I'm planning to maybe one day educate my children in the US. And at the time that I was in the US in the 80s, in the 80s, there wasn't this kind of racism going on. There was, but to an extent, it has become worse. And so we in Ghana, we can't sit back and think that it doesn't concern us. We have large families in the diaspora. And so we have to add our voice as Africans, even for our Black Americans or African American brothers and sisters in the US, in the UK, Europe, and all sorts of places. Apart from that, in Ghana, we have seen countless and countless events or cases of police brutality. Recently, you remember the one at the Midland Bank about the woman who was beaten to a pulp. And then in Kumasi, a lady called Efia at Sofoline police station was subjected to the atrocious brutality that you'd ever think of. And in the end, what did the police say? They said that she attempted suicide or she was trying to kill herself. But the doctors investigated and realized that this brutality was purely from the police. So what am I saying? I want all the moms who love their children, mom who loves the children of the world. I'm a teacher. And recently, as we were doing distance education, distance learning, I had to treat a topic on a subject area called Our World, Our People.
Right.
And so we are looking at important places in our community.
Okay.
So the police station was part of it.
Okay, I need to step in here because I'm running out of time, but I get the point you're trying to make, that you're putting together mothers who can stand up against some of these brutalities, not just for what is happening in the United States, but what we have seen as some sort of replication happening here in Ghana. Just hang on for me briefly. Now, Pakwesi Asare is joining us from Alabama. Pakwesi, what's the situation there?
Thank you, Gifty. It's not any different from what's happening in other parts of the United States of America. And as you rightly stated, this is Alabama, and it has quite a unique history and peculiarity when it comes to demonstrations here in the United States. Alabama has been home to most of the key events leading up to the civil rights movement of 1963, which eventually culminated in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. As you may be aware, there were lots of demonstrations, against the poor treatment of Black people. And Martin Luther King, who famously delivered the I Have a Dream speech once upon a time, had referred to Alabama as the most segregated city in the United States. It tells you that, the sort of racism that occurs or that occurred in Alabama was that deep. And so lots of demonstrations took place during that period. So this is a history, the little background to Alabama. And they have also followed up with lots of demonstrations in cities like Mobile, Birmingham. A lot of these nonviolent demonstrations and protests have eventually led to violence. Many media people have been attacked. They've been back and forth. A lot of things have happened, all showing solidarity, to what happened on Monday.
Let me bring in Jifa Ahiaji, who is also joining us from the United States of America. She's an international health. I beg your pardon. I know, right? Joining us from the United States. Jifa, thank you very much. And you really need to forgive me for that. But what do you see? We're looking at a pandemic. And in the midst of the pandemic, all of a sudden, there is this wild protest going on. Protest that I think the United States hasn't seen in several decades, I guess. What's your assessment?
Well, let's just say a movement is starting. A giant dragon or serpent is awakening. You rightly said we are in the middle of a pandemic. Let me add that there has been a pandemic already going on for more than 100 years, which is called racism, slavery, discrimination against black people, people of darker skin, not only in Africa, not only in the United States or the Americas. It could be in Europe, it's in Asia, it's in Australia. And this must stop. And this George Floyd being murdered by a white privileged man, it was just the spark to something that has been there waiting to happen. And we are hoping that it's like a choboy. When choboy happens, what happens? Everybody rises up. And as you rightly said, we need what? Africans, Black Africa, to rise up and tune up with Africa or Black Africa in the diaspora. So let's begin the conversation and let's go on.
So unfortunately, we have very limited time right now, but I want you to address for me how this movement can survive in this pandemic and the problem that it brings, the extent of infection that you can imagine people will be spreading if, assuming just one person has it. Well,
it's a life. Would you rather die from poverty, from police brutality, or fighting for your life, or wait for a disease to come and kill you? And talking about that pandemic, one of the lessons I've come to learn is to maybe appreciate more our ancestors and our herbalists when they talk about the mucous membrane, the phlegms. You remember what our herbalist said? If you can treat your phlegm, you can treat almost every disease. Your phlegm, your mucous membrane is just like your drainage system. If your drainage system is clogged, what happens? Diseases happen. Isn't that what happens? So yes, through pandemics, we can look at all those, do the maybe physical distances and look after ourselves, but we cannot continue to ignore the fact that we Black people, we the people who gave birth to life, we are being discriminated upon out of fear. Let me quote this famous white educator, Jane Elliott. She said, if you are a white person born in the United States of America and you are not racist, then it's a miracle. This is a white woman saying this.
I see. We can have this conversation another time, but I need to get to your wrapping up comment so that we can call it a wrap for today. I'll start with you, Jessica. Jessica, briefly, what do you want people to do? You have started a movement. What do you want people to do, briefly, so we can wrap up on that?
Okay. What do I want people to do? I've sent messages to some people on WhatsApp, on Facebook, and now this. I've got a number. We want to do social distancing with our march. So we want to march to 2 places and deliver some speeches with our placards. We want to wear red. In Ghana, when we wear red, it means we are mourning. We want to be in solidarity with our people in the U.S.
Okay.
And then we want to say that mothers come together, 50 of us. We walk down, make our speech, no violence, very easy atmosphere. We just want to make our mark. And for the government to actually pay attention to police training.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Jessica, for joining in. Jessica Ugbuma there, she has put together, she's a convener of Moms Against Police Brutality. Pakwesi, briefly for me, I mean, you understand the constraints that I have with time. You are a media person. So briefly, wrap it up for me on how you must be feeling as a person of color or of a black person in this community at this time.
It's not a very good feeling, Gifty, if you ask me. Discrimination is real, racism is real, and particularly for where I find myself. I mean, anybody you ask about the Deep South, one of the first things that they tell you about is the racism and discrimination that occurs. I've had my fair share of discrimination just a couple of weeks ago, where I had an encounter with a white man who said, hey, go back to your country. Leave my country and go back to your country. I mean, I had to call in the police because he had also threatened my life, and the police had come in and all that. Subsequently, I had to move out of the place and all that. So it is not an exciting thing. And just like the previous speakers have said, we need to be up and speaking. It is not in anybody's interest to be quiet at this moment. We all need to come up, and rise and speak against discrimination. The governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey, had earlier issued a statement reminding people
Thank you very much, Pakwesi, for joining in the discussion. Pakwesi Osare is a journalist living in Alabama at the moment. And I was also joined by Jifa Ahiaji, who is a international health expert. And that's all time will allow us. Log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more news there. My name is Gifty and Let's go.